All right, everyone. So it is now 2 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, and I would like to go ahead and ask everyone to please take a moment and write your name, your role, and your organization or school into the chat box so we can track this for our participation. And I've provided an example of how to do this on the presentation on my screen. We need to track participation for our grant purposes, so I really appreciate that if you could go ahead and do that. And now I'd like to welcome you all to the Gear Up Transition to College Student Panel Discussion. And my name is Janine Coutu, and I am the West Virginia Gear Up Transition and First Year Program Coordinator with the Higher Education Policy Commission. And the purpose of this panel is to help those students who have decided to take the next step and continue their education at a community college, technical college, or at a four-year institution. As we were putting this event together, we thought who better to share what college is really like than current college students. With that being said, our panelists are current college students or recent college graduates, and they will be sharing their college experience, offering tips, and answering questions you may have about going into your first year of post-secondary education. Our goals for this panel is to set a realistic expectation of what life is like as a college student and provide perspective and encouragement for students getting ready for the college transition. Before we start the panel, I would like to go over what the panel discussion will look like. So we're going to start off with 20 minutes of dialogue with our panelists, and then we'll open up to the audience for any questions you may have. With that being said, for your questions, please submit those in the chat box, and then I will be monitoring the chat box so our panelists can answer them. With that, I would like to turn it over to our panelists for them to introduce themselves. So let's start with Taylor, and then Shiloh, and Carrie, and then Austin.
All right. I am Taylor Ravy. I am a graduate of Fairmont State University. I graduated in the fall of 2017, and I am currently a grad student at Marshall University. I was also a part of West Virginia's first Gear Up grant.
My name is Shiloh Perry. I just graduated this semester from Marshall University, and so I'm hoping to go to grad school in the coming years, but right now I'm just a recent college graduate.
My name is Karen McGuire, and I'm a sophomore at Southern, and I'm a Gear Up student, and I want to become a respiratory therapist.
My name is Austin. I'm a sophomore at Concord University. I'm also a Gear Up student, and my major is pre-professional biology.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for those wonderful introductions. Now I'd like to kick off our panel discussion with our first question. We all know that getting ready to start college can be overwhelming at first between meeting new people, navigating campus, going to classes, and having more responsibility. Feeling overwhelmed or stressed is completely normal. What challenges did you face during your first year of college, and how did you overcome those challenges? Austin and Carrie, do you mind answering this question? Austin, you can go ahead and start.
Sure. Okay. For me personally, what I had trouble with, like the hardest part for me was really like just getting the room together and like trying to stay organized. I'm a very like social, bubbly person, so it wasn't really hard for me to like make groups, which is something I really push towards people like asking me, hey, how was college, or what would you suggest for my kid who's going to college, is make study groups and like just meet new people, because in one of the groups I'm in, the class I'm taking next semester, one of my buddies are giving me their old notes and their old books for free, I might add. And it's just a really, really good experience to for first year students to make friends and make connections with other people.
Awesome. And Carrie?
My first year here at Southern, I was nervous about navigating, even though it's just a community school. It still brings on the nerves and worries of getting to class on time, meeting new people. But going to Southern, I've learned that I have overcome my fear of meeting new people and getting to know the professors and getting to interact and make study groups with my peers.
Awesome. Now, speaking of other first-time experiences, for many students, this will be the first time they play an active role in scheduling their own classes. Can you describe what things you consider when putting together your schedule, and how did your advisor support you through this process? Shiloh and Taylor, do you mind answering this question? Shiloh, we can start with you.
Okay, I think utilizing your academic advisor is probably the best thing that you can do when it comes to scheduling for your first semester, because it's going to be a new experience for you and it might be a little overwhelming, especially with like your gen ed requirements and your electives and everything. You have so many options. And so your advisor can kind of help you narrow down all of that. And an exciting thing too is obviously you have your course requirements for your actual degree, but through those gen ed classes and those electives, you have the opportunity to kind of explore any other interests you might have outside of your own specific degree. And so I think it's really great that you can utilize that to like explore all of your other interests.
And Taylor?
And also, so when I was at Fairmont, I was in the honors program. So when I was setting to make my schedule, they actually had older honors students sit down one-on-one with every student. So I had somebody who had already been through the process sit down and help me make my first schedule. And so that helped. And then you also have to remember when you're making your schedule, if you're going to have a job outside of campus or on campus, those are things you have to factor in and look at your time slots and make sure things aren't overlapping. Look at the buildings. Like if it takes more than 10 minutes to get from one building on campus to another, you might not want to schedule those classes back to back because you might have to rush in between to get to the next class. So those are factors you definitely want to consider when you're making your class schedule, because you want to be as the least amount of stress possible and having to rush every, like say if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, if you have to rush 3 days a week, that's just an added stressor that could have been avoided.
Great. Thank you so much for those wonderful responses. So moving on, one of the goals of this panel is to provide insight as to what to expect during college. With that being said, can you describe what a typical day in college was like for you? Let's start off with Austin, and then we'll go to Carrie, and then Shiloh, and then Taylor. Austin?
So, yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So, a regular day for me started with my 8 a.m. classes, which I'm saying for the record, if you don't have to take them, don't do it. I went to my 8 a.m. class, 11 p.m. class, and then I had a night class at 8 p.m. So there's like a large break in between my classes. And during those times, what I usually do is I either studied, volunteered at the Princeton Hospital, or I, got food somewhere in between those times. And so for freshman college students, I would suggest having a set schedule for yourself. Try not to deviate from that as much as you can, so that you can always get so much stuff done in a certain amount of time and give yourself a break in the evening.
Great. Carrie, you want to go next?
My typical day also started at 8 a.m. I started with my math course, and then I had 30 minutes in between that, and I went straight into my English. And then I had about an hour, which I spent studying if there was an upcoming test, or giving me some time to sit and get prepared for the next class. And then my next class was anatomy. And then after that, I was done for the day, but then I had to come home and work on my online courses. So I would set out certain times for each course, so I wouldn't get behind and I'd be organized. And I had a planner, which I suggest for the upcoming freshman, to keep a planner on what you're doing for the day and know what you're doing so you don't get behind in one of your classes.
And Shiloh, you want to go ahead and share?
Yeah, I agree with Carrie that having a planner, if you're one of those types of people, is really effective and really efficient when it comes to scheduling out your time. For me, thankfully, I was able to avoid 8 a.m. classes for most of my college career. My typical day started around 9:30 was usually my first class, and it was either something political science related or one of my French courses. And then I tried my best to schedule classes that weren't back to back, so I could have about an hour and a half between my classes. That way, it helped me to kind of get a head start for any homework that I had or like other studying throughout the day, because my brain was already focused on class. Like starting out the day with the class, it was easier for me to like be more motivated to go to the library between classes and work on homework while I was already on campus. And then usually my classes ended between 3 and 4 every day. So then after that, I would just like go home or maybe like go to the gym or something and then have a snack, eat some dinner, and then go ahead and try to get like homework done before, 7 or 8. That way, just for your own mental health, you have time in the evenings to like set aside stuff just for you. What you want to do, like watch some TV, hang out with your friends. I think something really important too is not to overwhelm yourself, to make at least a little bit of time every day for something that you genuinely enjoy.
Awesome, thank you. And Taylor?
So my days also typically started at 8 a.m., but I always, so I worked on campus, so I always volunteered to work the earlier shifts at work because I knew I was more apt to get up and go to campus if I was going to be going to my job than go to class. And my work schedule, I scheduled my classes, they worked to coincide, so I could leave work to go to class and then come back. So I was on campus every day from 8 to 4 typically, either in class or at work. I was a part of a lot of different organizations on campus, so I knew that my evenings typically I had something to do, so I tried to schedule my classes and all that during the 8 to 4 time period. So I knew I was going to be on campus either at my job or in class.
Awesome, thank you. I know we touched on this a little bit already, but it sounds like you all had pretty busy schedules. How did you manage to balance all of your responsibilities? Austin, do you want to start with that, and then Taylor?
Sure. So me and my roommate have a set time to go to bed at 11 p.m. No matter what homework, unless it's like some kind of dire emergency, we're like really strict about our bedtime. And another thing I did was I made sure to like separate all my work to get it done before I got to my dorm room. So there were days where I was like, oh my God, there's your cat. There were days where I was at my library. Oh, excuse me. From like 4 p.m., which is when my last class ended, to 6, trying to get myself ready and clear my schedule so I could take time for myself. And that's all I got.
Okay. And then Taylor?
So I agree with what both Carrie and Shiloh have said. My planner was invaluable to me during college. I would look every week, sometime on Sunday, I would look and see what I had to do that week. And I would essentially like just block my schedule out into time periods. So I knew I was going to get everything done in the week. So whatever assignments I had to do, I put in time slots for studying, time slots for, I honestly, even down to like eating, like I took an hour for dinner, and just so I knew that everything was going to get done. And then once I had that finished for the week, I was a lot less stressed because I knew I had a plan to get everything done. And I only did it a week at a time, because like if you looked further than that, I would stress myself out. So just a week at a time, I would look at my planner and create a schedule.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So we've primarily touched on academics so far during this discussion, so I wanted to switch gears and ask about your involvement outside the classroom. Are you currently involved in any clubs, organizations, sports, or etc. on campus? And how did you go about making friends during college? Shiloh, do you want to start us off, and then Carrie?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So I chose to join Greek life at Marshall, which I think was definitely one of the best things that I could have done because I made most of my college friends that way, honestly. I think it's a wonderful community and it's very different at each campus, which I think is good because you have a different group of people. And I also was a part of a few honor societies on campus as well. And I think if there's usually each like institution in West Virginia has their own like individual clubs and organizations. There's pretty much everything that you could look for. There's going to be something for everyone if you look for it. And also, I would just encourage you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and definitely like attend sporting events and things like that on campus because there's going to be big groups of people and there's so many opportunities to like meet people. And usually for freshmen, there's so many different orientation events, even just throughout your whole first semester. And I would definitely recommend going to as many as you can fit in your schedule, just because it's one of the best ways to meet people, because pretty much all freshmen are looking for friends. So
Awesome, thank you. And Carrie?
One of the big groups that I was in was student government, and I was a freshman secretary. I got to meet people not only in the student government, but outside of that during our events that we got to host for the people on campus. And also the National Society of Leadership and Success during the speaker broadcasts. You would get to go in a few minutes early or stay a little later and get to talk and meet new people. And I think it's very important for the upcoming freshmen to get in as many clubs as you possibly can, because that's how you meet your friends for college.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. So now that you all have had a chance to share your experiences, I think the final question that I have for you today is, what advice would you like to offer to incoming college students? What do you wish you knew going into your first year of college? And we can start with Taylor, and then Austin, Shiloh, and then Carrie. So, Taylor?
So I was a tour guide in college, and the piece of advice I told my every tour was, remember your professors are people too. So yeah, they may seem scary and intimidating at the front of the classroom, but when it comes down to it, they're also human. They want what's best for you. So if you are struggling, if you're having a problem, or if you would just, that's a really interesting topic to you, go to their office hours, try to catch them after class. They will remember who you are if you take that first step and reach out to them and just show interest or show that you are willing to kind of fight for your grade.
Awesome. Thank you. And Austin?
Let's see. So my first thought was, don't take 8 a.m. classes, but for me, that really couldn't be avoided. To bounce off what Taylor said about befriending your professors, find out what your professors are interested in and see if you have any kind of common interests. My English professor, Dr. Roth, me and her both really, really enjoy reading. And so we've been exchanging books over the summer. Another thing would be to befriend get a really good relationship with your roommates or dorm mates or whatever, if you have those, so that you can have hey, so that you guys can help each other out. And here at Concord, they have a thing where if you have similar majors, they'll put you together. So see if you can find someone who you have common interest in when you room together. Yeah, that's all I got.
Great, thank you. And Shiloh?
my advice is going to be pretty similar to Taylor and Austin's, which is that definitely don't be afraid to utilize your professor's office hours because, like Taylor said, they can seem really intimidating at first, but they just know what's best for you and they want to help you however they can. And it's really good to form a good relationship with your professors, especially since a lot of times with your specific major, you'll have like the same professor from multiple classes and different times. So like as you like go farther in your college career, you'll eventually like you'll want to apply for internships, or even if you choose to like pursue your education further and go to grad school, those are going to be the people that are writing your letters of recommendation, and those are going to be the people that help you. So it really is effective to form a good relationship with them, and the same for your advisor, because especially your advisor can be there's that person that's going to help you like find those opportunities for you and just help you throughout your whole path.
Awesome, great. And Carrie?
I just would like to tell everyone, don't be scared to ask questions. Just like everyone else said, they look intimidating, but they're not. You get to know them and show that you care, and they'll help you out in the best way you can. And my advisor, I couldn't have asked for a better advisor. She gave me so many opportunities. So it is nice to get in there and get to know them and make relationships, and so they know what you're looking for and they can help you further your education.
Awesome, thank you. Before we turn it over to our audience for some questions, I would like to ask one final question. So we know that having support can help with any transition, especially the transition to college. Could one of you share who offered you the most support during your college transition and in what ways they helped you? Taylor, do you want to take this one?
Oh, that's really hard. So I luckily had quite a few mentors throughout my college process. I had 2 academic advisors. So that was nice because I had 2 opinions. So if one of them didn't really tell me exactly what I wanted to hear, I had another voice of reason I could go to. And if they told me the exact same thing as the other one, I'm like, okay, clearly that's probably the advice I should take. And then I also, through the Gear Up program, I looked up and I stayed in contact with them. So when I had questions outside of just what was going on at Fairmont, I could reach out to them and they could answer my questions. So I found my mentors in different routes, but all of them have definitely impacted my life in very positive ways.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone else want to share?
For me, I was lucky enough that my brother actually attended the same university that I did. He went to Marshall as well, and he's only a year older than me, so we were there at the same time. So when I moved in as a freshman, I had my parents as a support system, and then I also had my older brother, because if I had any questions about like just pretty much anything that I didn't want to embarrass myself by like asking my RA in my dorm or other people, I could always like call him or text him and ask about it. And also I think if you do end up living like on your campus, if you have that opportunity, your RA for your dorm can help you with a lot of stuff too, just with the whole process, because that's kind of what they're there for with freshmen. And they can help you like with learning about events and all of that stuff. So if you don't have a support system, you can form one that way.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. Now I'm going to go look at the question box to see if we have any. Okay, so we have one question from a member of the audience is, what ways do you practice self-care?
I can. So I told you how I mapped out my schedule each week. I would put in a nap. I would literally schedule myself a nap because I knew, like, especially if it was like a week that I had a lot planned that I needed, like, especially if it was going to be a later night with like campus activities or something. Like a lot of campuses do up all nights. On those days, I would schedule a nap because you know what? It's important to having good sleeping habits are important.
I'll admit I did the exact same thing. I would make time for naps at least a few times a week, honestly. And I think I mentioned this earlier though, but with self-care, part of it is like, especially if you have a roommate or if you're surrounded by people in classes all the time, I think it's good to just make sure you have alone time as well for your mental health, and just to like take time at least a little bit every day just for something you genuinely enjoy.
Great. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Well,
I wasn't
go
cool.
ahead.
Okay, please. Okay, you go ahead.
Oh, well, for myself, I love being outdoors, so I would schedule me a 30-minute walk that I could go and be by myself and listen to music and look at the nature and just get to enjoy that alone time with myself while getting my exercise in.
Awesome. And Austin?
I wasn't really cool like you guys. I didn't like plan naps or go out into nature. I binge watched a lot of shows, and that was my self-care because that was something I really enjoyed, and brought me a lot of serotonin.
Awesome. Great. I see one question in our chat box, and it says, thinking back to your senior year in high school, what misconceptions did you have about college life before becoming a college student?
I'm gonna go ahead and take this one if that's okay.
Yeah,
I
go for it.
feel like we've all had very similar experiences in high school where your teachers always stress to you that your professors in college will take things a lot more seriously than they do. And that's the case for some professors, but I also kind of feel like that scares high school students just a little bit, and they come in being afraid of their professors but from my experience, at least, most of my professors have been very laid back. Because, I mean, this is their job, and they're with college students. They want to be able to relate to them because I feel like you learn better that way. And so don't be afraid of your teachers, no matter what your high school teachers say. They're not going to be scary for the most part, and they're going to be very chill and very laid back. And so you don't have to be scared to talk to them.
Great. Great advice. Anyone else want to add anything?
I thought that the college classes were going to be so much harder. And they're really not. Like, it was, you kind of just are in a high school class with students you may not really know that well yet, because in a lot of situations we've been with the kids we're in high school with forever. So you're really just kind of in a new environment, but it's still kind of like a high school class. Some even have like the pull down maps that your high school had. So it's like the classroom situation is very similar. And a lot of times you're taking classes that you are genuinely going to enjoy because, like, that's your major. So it's really not infinitely harder than high school classes.
Great. And Austin, did you have anything to add?
Jumping off of what Shiloh said, I have a little story to tell. My A&P professor, really cool dude, one of the coolest professors I had. This was a junior level class at Concord, and I was taking as a freshman, so I was terrified. And he came in the first day, sat down on the little desk island they have in the front of the room, and he was like, "Hey, how you guys doing? This is A&P," and just told the wackiest story. It was a good time.
I do see one other question in the chat. It says, on average, how much time do you spend studying per week?
I say for me, it was between like 14 to like 16 hours, I want to estimate, because I tried to do 3 to 4 hours a day. I mean, if you have time for more, you can absolutely do more. It's just for me, it works better to like kind of balance out. Like I said earlier, I tried to study in between my classes and schedule that time there. And then when I got home as well. And I probably studied a little bit more on the weekends than obviously I did during the week because of my classes and work and being overwhelmed by things. But for me, it was probably like between 14 and 16 hours.
I would say I probably studied 12 to 15 hours a week.
Great.
I probably studied that much too. It just varied on what I had this week and what was going on next week.
So yeah, you have to learn to be flexible because there are going to be weeks that are going to require more attention. Like if you have midterms or finals coming up, like those are the weeks before that, you might want to schedule a little bit more time to study. And then there are going to be easier weeks where you might not study, like where I said I studied 12 to 15, I might not have studied 8 that week. So it's flexible.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I remember putting in that time as well. We have one other question, and it says, do you work while in college? If so, do you work on campus or off campus?
I worked on campus, and I typically worked about 18 hours a week on campus. I worked in the Office of Admission, so I gave tours.
Awesome.
I worked off campus, usually part-time jobs. Mine kind of varied throughout college. I didn't work at the same place because I also did a couple of internships like thrown in there too. But I tried to, since I was, trying to balance studying, and I was also in Greek life at Marshall, and that takes a lot of time. So I probably worked between 15 and 20 hours a week at a part-time job, and I liked it.
Awesome. I think that's all of the questions that we have. I hope I didn't miss any. If anyone else would like to add a question to the chat, please feel free to do so.
Cameron just asked, does having a job while in college make school more difficult?
Ooh.
At times, yes, and then at times, no. Sometimes it made school easier because, like, where I worked with a ton of other students, like, there would be times where we had classes together. So we could do our homework together after work. And but there were some Saturdays I had to give up, and that would cut into some studying time. So you have to definitely learn to be flexible in college because it ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I agree with Taylor. I think it's a good thing most of the time, but it can also make things a little difficult, especially around maybe your midterms or your finals, or if you have a really, really huge paper and you end up being scheduled to work like the night that it's due and you were going to finish stuff. I agree that you have to be very flexible, but for me, it was also kind of beneficial because, like, I am one of those people that I tend to overthink on my assignments and stuff, and it kind of helped my brain to like take a break and actually just think on work. So I wasn't just thinking on that one thing all day, and it kind of helped, I feel like, my thought process work a little better.
It kind of gave your brain
exactly.
Like it gave you like a built-in brain break.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a healthy distraction because I feel like sometimes those good ideas come to you when you're like not focusing on it all the time.
Mm-hmm. We do have another question in the chat. It says, how do you manage your finances in college? Any tips?
I just checked, like I had the banking app and I just checked it religiously, like multiple times a day just to make sure I knew what was going on there. I would mark down payday in my calendar so I knew just kind of when things were coming. So just having a planner or a calendar, I would say, is invaluable with helping plan your finances.
Gotcha. Awesome. Yep. Austin, go ahead if you have something to add.
What I did was I was like really frugal with my money. So I didn't spend as a lot of money unless it was like some special day, like, oh, my friend's birthday's coming up, I'm gonna go do yada yada. And I was like really picky, I'm not sure if that's the right word, about like spending like gas. I was like the old dads who, if the price went down at the gas station 2 miles away compared to the one that's 1 mile away, I would drive. Yeah, I would do the cold dad math.
Awesome.
And also, hold on, a lot of college towns do like half price movies one day a week, or like half price bowling. And so just if you are wanting to go out and do things, but you do want to save money, find out when those nights are so you can still go out and have fun, but do it at a less expensive cost.
And there might be a lot of temptation too, like with friend groups and stuff that you have. Like some people may want to like go out and get dinner more often in a week, or like go out or go to movies and stuff more often than you like want to in terms of like your fiscal responsibility. So don't be afraid to say no, because your friends are going to understand because they're all in college with you. So it's okay to like say no.
Also, utilize the events that are happening on campus because that's a time to go. You can go hang out, and more often than not, those are free. So it's not uncool to go to campus events.
No, a lot of them have free food too, so that's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you so much for answering all of those questions. I do have a question that I just thought of geared towards more of towards Austin and Carrie, since you are first, or you just finished your first year. But how was finals for both of you? Was it a learning curve? How was that experience, and what advice would you have for incoming college students to prepare for finals?
I'll go first on this one.
Okay.
So, for me personally, finals themselves, not there. You have to worry about them, but you don't have to worry about them as much as you thought. As long as you're planning, and you know what times your finals are, and you get there early, and you'll be fine. It's like the week before finals. That's what's scary to me, because that's the week when professors are giving you a ton of work, adding all the grades, and you're just like in a constant rush and a big mess, and it's not a great time, but I got through it twice now. So if I can get through it, anyone can.
Awesome. Carrie?
Well, I advise everyone to know your grade before you go and take your finals. Know your grade for that class. And before that final that week, you set out certain times throughout the day to go study. Just don't overdo it. Make sure you give yourself time to do what you enjoy. But make sure you set out enough time that you know that you are prepared to take the finals.
Awesome. Great advice. Anyone want to add anything?
I would ask your professor early in the semester how the final is going to look like, because some professors it's just going to be a paper. Some professors it'll just be your last test of the semester, while other professors may make it cumulative. So any of the cumulative finals I had, I made sure to keep my notes and continue studying those as the semester went on. But if I knew my final wasn't going to be cumulative, then, and it was just going to be the last test, then I didn't really have to, I would still keep the notes just in case, but you didn't really have to continue to study those. And so it's kind of just, you help yourself out.
Awesome. And there is one more question in the chat, but hold on, an email just popped up and it's blocking my thing. Are there any services offered? Are there any other services offered at your school that some students might not be aware of? Mental health services, etc. Does anyone want to share some of those?
At Marshall, one program they have that a lot of students aren't aware of is they have free counseling for students. Like if you're stressed, if you're suffering from anxiety, if you just have anything at all in your life that you feel like is causing you stress that you need to discuss with someone, they have free counseling services. And also the career services at Marshall, they will help you build a resume. And I know some people don't come into college knowing how to do that because they've never had to build a resume before. And so they can help you with that and professional development.
Great.
I'll add, here at Southern, we had workshops. A workshop would be stress management, or another workshop would be how to navigate through Blackboard. Just whatever you needed, you'd have test prep workshops, just different workshops to help you get through the struggles that you're going through.
Awesome. Great. And then Austin, did you have something to add?
Yeah, at Concord, they have this really cool room, which is if you don't know where it is, you can't find it. It's one of those kind of places. It's full of paint and beanbag chairs, weighted blankets, one of those UV lamps. It's a really cool place. I go there to decompress, or whatever happened that day, yada yada yada. It's really nice.
Awesome. Great. Sounds like there's a bunch of resources to take advantage of. I think that's all of the questions we have in the chat. Is there anything anyone would like to add for any students out there?
Just don't be scared and go in and have fun and meet new people.
Awesome. Great advice.
I would say challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone.
Don't be afraid to stick up for yourself. Like you are there, and like self-advocacy is definitely an important skill to learn and utilize throughout college.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
If we don't have any more questions, I would like to conclude today's panel by saying thank you so much for all of our student panelists. I'm sure you offered great advice for all of the students out there getting ready for the college transition, and I greatly appreciate it. Congratulations on finishing your first year and graduating, Shiloh. Congratulations, and continuing your education. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to share my screen once more and provide my contact information. If you have any questions regarding the transition to college, please feel free to reach out to me. In addition, for those Gear Up students who are attending these following institutions: Marshall University, Concord University, Bluefield State, WVU Tech, and Southern West Virginia Community and Technical College, Logan Campus, and Williamson Campus. We have Gear Up transition coordinators who will be on those campuses to help prepare you, to help you through your first year of college. So if you like their contact information, please feel free to contact me and I will be able to put you in touch with them. In addition, we have more resources on our Gear Up website, wvgearup.org, as well as cfwv.com. Again, please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions, and thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.